Welcome back, and at this point in time, there's a little bit of green in the mid-cap space, and all the indices have kind of recovered from the morning's lows. But the news has not recovered. The news continues to paint a 3-0 defeat for the BJP, and maybe you can also call it 5-0 because they are not in contention in the states of Mizoram and TRS. But, well, to be fair, in Madhya Pradesh, the cliffhanger continues because it is still 104 to 115, so still anybody's game. Let's invite Sanjay Dutt, Director, Quantum Securities. Good morning, Sanjay. I mean, do you think, since the market has moved up from the base after hearing the news of elections, would you say that it's put a bottom?
I think so, Lata. For the time being, yes. I think elections are done and dusted and out of the way. Most of the impact, in fact, I would say all the impact of the elections were kind of over yesterday evening. What we're seeing today is more linked to the uncertainty rising out of the events at RBI, the governor resigning, etc., and the big question mark of who's next. So elections are over and done with. I think day after tomorrow, no one will be even referring to the state elections just over.
Okay. Well, yes, we have other problems to worry about, right? Like the governor's resignation, who the next governor would be, and what the possibility of the populist policies are that the BJP could throw up. But Adrian Mowat, the emerging market equity strategist, also joins in. Adrian, hi, good morning. All the foreign investors that we've spoken to so far through the course of the morning seem to indicate that there won't be a major FII pullout because the monetary policy continuity will be there. I mean, it's an institution after all, and it's just a matter of one person moving out. Would you agree? And what would your own stand be on what's happening over the last 24 hours?
Yes, I would agree with that. So the inflation targeting regime is still in place. And I think if there is a tension here, and remember we are speculating a bit in that the resignation letter from the governor didn't indicate the reasons beyond personal. But there's obviously some tension in that we've got capital adequacy issues in the PSU banks. We've got issues with some of the NBFCs. And you've got that balance about being, tough on capital adequacy, making sure that institutions that don't have sufficient capital aren't continuing to grow, versus the economic impact of that, in that if you constrain a certain section of the banking industry, that has an economic impact. And if that goes too far, that could even add to some of the issues in terms of bad assets. So I think these issues of tension between the central bank and the ministry and the government in general are sort of understandable, and you're trying to get a sort of balancing act in place. And that's perhaps why international investors are, I wouldn't say sanguine, but not overreacting to the situation.
Adrian, what would they watch from here on, or a person like you watch from here on? Would you just watch who's the next governor? Would it be better if he were an academic? Would it be better if he were a serving civil servant? What will disturb foreign investors, especially debt investors who are very sensitive to these things?
Well, it's a good question because, the governor that's just resigned was picked by the current governor, by the current government. And so it's that dynamic in itself is interesting. But just as Trump picked Powell, and then you start to have disagreements. So I would go back to my comments about the control of the NBFCs and the PSU banks, and whether there is a significant easing in the restrictions on their future lending. They're also going to be looking for are the RBI assets going to be used to recapitalize these banks?
Okay.
So I think those are the sort of particular issues that we'd specifically look for, under the assumption that this doesn't indicate any threat to the inflation targeting regime.
Sure. We've actually run out of time, so I'm going to try and squeeze in one last question to you, Sanjay. After today's loss, the BJP is expected to try to recover some political ground over the next 100 days with perhaps giveaways for small businesses, for farmers, maybe some populist measures. How do you think that would go down with the markets? if it comes about?
At first, yeah, exactly. That's the biggest question. I don't think anything of that's going to come about, really. What is going to come about is some pragmatic resolution of issues that have been deadlocked. RBI as an institution, we'll have a new leader, hopefully a good new leader. But irrespective, I think the show will go on. But I don't see there's too much time to really effect massive populist measures. And Udayan was correctly pointing out that time is too short to really do much of damage, whether the fisc goes from 3.2 to 3.5. So I think we can more or less rule that out. In fact, whatever will happen for the positive if all goes well. And one would want to keep a watch on a day-to-day basis as to what they do.
Okay. Very quickly, Adrian, do you think the global economy, backdrop is still very treacherous? What would the pecking order be if you were an investor?
Yeah, so, I mean, clearly markets are disturbed, particularly with the move that we've had in the 10-year bond yield. I think this growth scare is completely overdone.
Okay.
The U.S. Household sector remains very healthy, strong income growth, low unemployment. I think you can be pretty bullish about U.S. consumption in that environment. Some of the one-off issues that caused the German economy to be weak are going to reverse in the new year. And I'm reasonably optimistic that we're beginning to see some easing in China. So I think this is going to turn out to be very similar to the experience that we had February, March, April this year,
okay.
Where markets got a bit of a scare, but it actually turned out to be a good opportunity.
Okay. Well, on that pleasant note, Sanjay Dutt and Adrian Mawat, thank you very much for joining us. We leave the markets as well actually in a fine spot, but maybe at the best level in the morning. The mid-cap index up 1/3% and the other indices also reducing their losses. It's a quick break and our special coverage of both the elections and their impact on the markets continue. Prashant Nair and Ikta Batra will be here to take you through the next 1 hour.